Hi, I'm Nathan Case. We are here to talk about scary stuff. This is...
This is not the end of the world, but you can see it from here. I'm John McCoy.
I don't think your mic's working.
Okay,
There we go.
it's not the end of the world, but you can see it from here, and I'm John McCoy.
So today, what we're going to do is talk about at least 3 events. Depending on how fast we go and the fact that we just had technical difficulties, we might just do 3. We've actually got 4 in the pipe, but we'll see what happens. The goal here is to basically give you 3 real-world events. These events occurred on critical infrastructure. Does anybody know what we mean when we say critical infrastructure?
Oh, good.
That makes me happy. How many people don't know what critical infrastructure means? Critical infrastructure means things that we drink water from, things that we get food from, things that actually are hospitals. We're going to talk about 3 different types of critical infrastructure today. We're going to talk about a communications platform. We're going to talk about a medical manufacturing platform. And then we're going to talk about a CI/CD pipeline that dealt with a whole bunch of critical infrastructure.
It's going to keep us alive and keep the world spinning.
Well, if we don't crash it. So, event 1. This is kind of an interesting event to me because it really plays on a significant number of things that we make assumptions about in our everyday life. How many people here have their own home? Cool. How many people here rent? If you rent, do you rent at an apartment complex? Couple of us? Have you ever seen something like this?
Home Wi-Fi comes with your apartment.
Yay! I gotta be honest, as a 40-year-old dude that had a house and everything set up in my house, I had not considered that an apartment complex would share Wi-Fi between all of the tenants. Mistakes were made. You shouldn't do this. Please, 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 please don't do this. Now, what happens when we do, because this is just going to be funny. When we share Wi-Fi between all of the tenants in a building, what do we get?
We get lots of friends.
We get lots of friends. Friends are good.
Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. Now, we would call this a LAN. Like most of us that are computer geeks that have done something, this is our LAN. We're going to have a LAN party. This is what this is. Now, what happens when we bring a friend that's maybe a little sick over and they get to play with our LAN?
We get shared resources and shared sickness on our LAN.
We get new friends because now all of our LAN items, all of the things connected to our LAN, have people in them. Not us, but other people in them as well.
Bring all your friends and your friends' friends and your malware friends.
And the Russians. So what happens when we bring an uninfected laptop into this situation?
Our friends get to join the uninfected laptop.
That's right, because we want to share.
Sharing is caring.
It is. Now, when we go ahead and we infect this wonderful laptop, hey, John, you need to stand to the right more because they can't, that right, not left.
My right, their right?
You're right. There we go. Yeah, there we are. Good. All right. So now that we have a laptop, don't go too much further. You're going to go out. That's all.
I'll do it.
I don't
do it.
I don't want to do the incident response.
Sharing is caring.
But all right. So now that we have a laptop that is indeed infected, what happens when it goes back to work? You take your friends with you, and you introduce your friends to all of your work friends. Now, how many people here are responsible for security at work? Yay! This event actually happened in an interesting place in the world. Anybody want to guess where this happened? Can we say Virginia? What's in Virginia, folks? Anyway, moving on. This is fun. We love it when people do things like this. You know why? Because what actually happens in the real world, and by the way, I'm Nate, I'm one of your speakers. I do incident response for a living. And one of the things that we keep finding is apartment complexes just like this. Why do we find apartment complexes just like this? Because it is so much easier as an attacker to infect an apartment complex like this when we want to have somebody that works here, near here, lives here, and then we can infect their laptop and bring that laptop back to government organizations. This is not good. This is really, really easy to detect. Really, really easy to stop, and no one does. Okay? On to event 2. That was fun. So event 2, we're going to label Bastion hosts. Everybody likes Bastion hosts, don't we? How many people like Bastion hosts? How many people have Bastion hosts at work? How many people use the cloud and still use Bastion hosts? Okay. So with Bastion host, we have some interesting things happen. And as an incident responder, one of the more interesting parts of my life is getting called at 2 in the morning. I love calls at 2 in the morning. You know what that means? That means I'm getting paid next week. The reality of this situation was pretty simple. I got called and I was told that the testing environment had been corrupted by malware. Yay!
Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. We've got friends.
Yes.
What happens when an artifact repo, however, has malware in it, and the things that you're delivering to your artifact repo are signed and in the artifact repo, but still have malware?
Then they're good to push to production.
I'm saying. Isn't that green? I think that's green.
That's green.
Yeah. So in our little example here, we have a relatively complicated environment, right? This is how you set up a reasonable CI/CD pipeline, a reasonable DevOps type of a system, right? Anybody see anything that you'd like to change? It's really too bad because I'm not going to redo the slides. But as we think about these things and we think about Bastion hosts, one of the things that I get to do is talk to the wonderful people at these companies and try to figure out exactly what happened and how it happened and why. These conversations can generally go on from 10 to 15 minutes to a couple hours. In this particular moment, I had the most fun conversation I have ever had as an incident responder. It went something like this. Hey, John.
Yes.
I need to get into the Bastion hosts.
Well, we have lots of good ones. 3 is our most stable. 1 is a little old. 5 is a little old. And yeah.
Why do you say 3 is the most stable, John?
My team really prefers it. And I think we've had 1 go down at least half the time.
Huh. So everybody likes Bastion host 3, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay, well, we'll use Bastion host 3. Side note, we never use Bastion host 3. Why do we not use Bastion host 3? What is that, if anything other than horribly, horribly concerning? So we go ahead and we evaluate 1, 2, 4, and 5. Do you know what we find on 1, 2, 4, and 5? None of them have been updated, none of them have been patched, and all of them haven't been used. So this is the security issue right here, right, folks? Oh, yes, absolutely not. Now, on 3, what did we find? We found a present.
But it's our best system.
It is our best system. It's the system that everybody uses.
Yes, its uptime is excellent. It's fully patched, right?
It is. I wonder who's patching it.
The intern?
Definitely not the intern. This conversation went something like this. Hey, John, are you the one patching Bastion host 3?
No.
Is that Sally?
Probably.
Hey, Sally, are you passing Bastion host 3? No, you're not. We went around for a good 30 minutes on this one. You know who was patching Bastion host 3?
The intern?
The Russians. Now, as we look at this, the reality, if we assume that the Bastion host is popped, where's our actual risk and what's the outcome in this particular moment going to be?
The Russians aren't doing good work.
Yeah, this is going to end badly for everybody, because what's going to happen is all of a sudden my Bastion host is going to reach out and deploy an artifact because we actually need to begin deploying that artifact to different portions of our environment. And as we do, those portions of the environment are probably going to then infect the CI/CD pipeline. Anybody want to guess what happens when you get an infected CI/CD pipeline?
No. Our scanners are going to detect it. We're
good.
Yeah.
It's totally okay, because what's going to happen is all of this is going to get infected. But because most of us have reasonable artifact repos and hygiene, that means that the malware is going to stay below the artifact repo, right?
Definitely.
Because, I mean, dev would never connect to production.
No, you would never connect.
So if we use Bastion host 3 to connect to production, because let's be frank, it's the most stable, what ends up happening? Well, this ends up happening. Now, this is actually a communications company. This was one of the largest communication companies in Europe. What ends up happening if this happens?
Our friends get to make more friends.
Our friends do get to make more friends, but more importantly, our friends get to make all of you as friends. And they get to know what plans you have this weekend.
All more party.
All more party. Now, as we think about this, how do we think that Bastion Host 3 could possibly have gotten its wonderful present?
I'm guessing not the intern?
Not the intern. Sally, it was not Sally. Oddly, it was not Sally. And you know what else didn't happen? None of the things that you would normally expect. There was no Tor exit node. There was no I went to a bad website. There was no I clicked on a bad email. Anybody want to guess what the issue was here? It was a wonderful USB drive that said Tommy's homework in the parking lot. I kid you not, this still happens.
Training is hard.
Training is hard, and humans are hard to update. We still can't find the USB slot. Event number 3. This one's yours, John.
And as we all know, when we're using our SaaS cloud providers, we have a nice 3-tiered architecture. You come from the internet, you log in, you have your application in your database. And then, of course, you have your CI/CD that we just talked about, and we'll walk through this real quick.
I mean, this is a pretty standard thing, right?
This is basically everything we use on our phone.
Right. Everybody has this, right? I mean, this is your stuff, effectively.
And as you have your gateway, presentation layer, logic, and data, we're building our security all the way through, and we're doing SDLC and great practices, and we're being professionals at a professional company.
But the CI/CD jumped.
It's much more efficient to use SaaS solutions on the cloud, and we've outsourced that to professional partners.
Really?
Yeah. We have an SLA.
But the internet, John?
No, they're secure.
Oh, they are?
Yes.
You checked?
I checked their documentation.
Cool. Well, then we'll go ahead and use them for a CI/CD pipeline.
Oh,
all right?
Of course.
Okay, cool. All right.
And so our CI/CD pipeline comes and pushes our application. And that is, I'm sure all of you are deploying this way in some fashion or another.
Pretty much.
And that's where applications come from and are born. And
poof. Now, when we switch it out here, some interesting things happen, right? We still deploy the same way. We still indeed deploy all of our applications the same way, and we still have stuff, right?
And we trust the internet.
We do. Do we?
Definitely.
Okay, we trust the internet implicitly. Because CI/CD pipelines, especially ones that we don't control, are trustworthy.
I mean, by professionals.
Okay, so cool.
And so, as you have your GitHub, you push to build and signing, you do all of your SAST and DAST and scanning, you do artifact repos, and you follow all of the best practices.
And we end up in the environment, right?
Oh, of course. That's where we push to.
Okay, cool. What happens when this happens, John?
When this happens, our application is now building and pushing malicious applications to our environment.
But that's okay, right? Because it's the internet.
I have no documentation on that.
Okay. Now, when we hook this wonderful CI/CD pipeline up to our systems, and we actually connect it from the internet, and we skip the firewall, what happens?
Then we're able to pass by all of our normal checks and balances for ingress and slip past into our development environment. Because we do a hard on the outside, and hard on the outside, not including our inside internet.
Right. And then we are the trusted provider, aren't we?
We are definitely the trusted provider and our friends.
Really? Who are our friends? I'm going to go with the Russians.
I'm not saying that.
Okay. So in this particular case, this event actually also occurred. This was a really brilliant company that did a lot of really solid work, and frankly, we all drink from. The reality of this particular situation was that the outside service provider, the CI/CD pipeline, had been popped probably months before this had actually occurred. The reality is the attacker actually began to go through each client in the CI/CD pipeline service provider and figure out how to jump between clients based on internal issues in that CI/CD provider. They jumped client to client to client until they found their favorite target, and then they went ahead and took over. This particular hack took about 3 years to find. But that's okay, you can still drink the water. Event 4. So this one's a little bit different. We all like to think about social engineering because social engineering is fun. That's what gets us free stuff when we call the airlines, right? But the reality here is that we're not talking about social engineering from a normative point of view. This is something that attackers do. We are all connected to the internet. And as we've just discussed, we trust the internet, don't we, John?
Of course, it's the best.
Implicitly.
Implicitly.
So when we find people and we talk to people and on LinkedIn, and we actually start working with them, it's totally normal that the CEO of a large oil company is going to talk to you, a new intro person in our company, and say that they would very much like to hire such a brilliant person into their company, right? Especially if you're Jane Smith of a manufacturing company and you're 2 years out of college.
Wouldn't you like to double your salary?
I mean, I would. Now, here's the thing. So one of the things we as security providers do not do is discuss with people what social engineering is and how best to deal with it. In this particular hack, one of the coolest things that I think I have ever seen, and one of the most malicious things that I have ever seen, is preying on an individual's assumption that they are special. And the reality here was that this person was attacked based on John Smith's ability to entice them into doing things that they should totally have done if they were actually going to look for a job. What happens next? Well, as it turns out, LinkedIn is not a good place. And Sally, or Jane in this case, was actually followed for many years by our attacker. They watched this person go through the company for 5 years, change roles, change things, grow, become a better person inside of this company, become somebody that eventually would be the documentation specialist. John, what do documentation specialists do?
They process lots of fun documents.
They do. What kind of documents do you think they touch?
Security.
All the documents, John.
All
the documents. Now, one of the cooler things that we can do about LinkedIn is that occasionally when you actually put all the pictures together that are AI fakes, turns out all the eyes line up. This is actually a wonderful research paper that defined exactly how these things work. So as a side note, for at least the next couple of weeks, until somebody tells the folks in Russia that this is how all of their AIs are lining up, this is one of the best ways to detect one of those fake profiles in LinkedIn. The eyes will actually be perfectly in the center.
So it's
I
been
kid you not. I appreciate the wiggly eyebrows, but trust me, I'm telling you the truth. Ah, there we go. So in this particular hack, what ended up happening was our wonderful person decided that they were going to go on LinkedIn and they're going to download a virus, right? That's the expectation. So they go ahead and they begin to work on things. And you know what they started to do? They started to work with this person on LinkedIn, communicate with them, discuss different things. And this person began to realize, based on geospatial analysis of their Wi-Fi and other things on their laptop, where they worked. And so they started looking at different things that this person worked on, because this is what this manufacturing company had. Any of this look particularly safe? They also found the fire and security system, which I found was interesting. They did this particular one by war dialing most of the city. Turns out the fire department was really pissed off and wasn't telling anybody about it. So, as we get to this point in the discussion of this particular incident, one of the more interesting things was, how do we actually get updates to systems like fire and safety systems? How do we get updates to laboratory equipment that are specifically cut off from reality? Anybody know what we call that? Those cloistered systems? Air-gapped. That is correct, Shades. Seems like the best nickname for you. Speaking to the mic. So as we look at this, one of the things that we become cognizant of is that our attacker is on the outside. And as this attacker begins to play with things inside of their systems, we expected them, as the defenders, to go ahead and attack this person's laptop. And we actually started putting some really interesting tripwires in place, because this is how we thought this attack was going to go. And yes, we actually did catch this attack before it was executed, which I was relatively proud of. It didn't pay off, but we'll get to that. Now, it was a network, and this network was Wi-Fi. Now, who has a wonderful air-gap system here? Anybody manage an air-gap system? A couple of us. Some air-gap systems are god-awful large, especially when we get into manufacturing equipment. And these manufacturing air-gap systems can be literally hundreds of yards squared. And so what do? We have to have Wi-Fi, John.
It's convenient.
It is. And if I have to carry a laptop around to the entire manufacturing floor, Wi-Fi would be helpful.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and put Wi-Fi on that, John.
Excellent.
Okay, cool. So now my bad guy can get to my laptop that has Wi-Fi and is currently running on the manufacturing Wi-Fi network. Cool. What am I going to go ahead and do? Our assumption was that we would see this laptop that was probably infected connect to laboratory and manufacturing equipment. And then we were expecting that equipment to be infected and all of that data to go running out to the cloud. So this is the biggest assumption that I have ever made in my career, and I must tell you that I was wrong. This is not what happened. In fact, instead of that, I got this. 32,000 DNS requests over the course of 5 minutes. Yay!
Lots of friends.
And we're popular.
Yes.
Now, the weird thing was, you'll note the sudden decrease in overall network connectivity. Hey, John, what happens when I have 32,000 DNS requests but no network connectivity?
Lots of friends going somewhere else?
Lots of friends going somewhere else. But I mean, we can tell that it was PowerShell and Outlook, and we definitely have a PowerShell script running.
Oh, maybe it's an AI?
Maybe it's not, but we have to say that. Yeah,
Yes.
fair enough. So what ends up happening? Well, before we get there, let's talk a little bit about manufacturing networks. So does anybody know what Modbus is? Yay, Modbus. Modbus is the manufacturing network that we use mostly here in the States. It's great stuff. Everybody uses it. Hey, John, what's Shodan?
It's a great search engine for finding all of your IoT friends on the internet.
It is. And so when we talk about Modbus, do you think Modbus from a, I don't know, say air-gapped network should show up in Shodan?
Definitely.
Out loud, folks, real quick with me. 1, 2, 3. Should Modbus show up on Shodan?
Yes.
Oh, come on. No, Modbus should never show up on Shodan. What's that number over there?
1?
No, it is 804,991.
That was close.
That's close to 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, as a side note, those of us in Europe and Asia are no better. We have 505,575 systems currently using MQTT, which is the preferred system over there. Interesting. So what does this tell us about our manufacturing systems, John?
They make lots of friends?
They make lots of friends. In our case, and when we talk about air-gapped systems, one of the things that I found most interesting is that air-gapped systems simply, frankly, do not work. As much as we really, really, really want them to work, they almost never do. I've actually walked into a nuclear power station before and had an individual watching soccer in the air-gapped section with a cable that he literally ran under the door, propped open, and then plugged into the system. People suck. Now, we go back to this cute little list. All of these things probably should be air-gapped. It's not going to work. Now, if all of these things aren't air-gapped, and we're starting to play with things that can really start to hurt us, what really happened here, do we think? In our little system that should have, how did our air-gap system fail? Anybody want to raise a hand and give us a guess, since my expectations were wrong? No one?
AIs?
AIs? No, it wasn't AIs, nor was it blockchain.
Ah.
Okay. Now, in the end, we ended up with a laptop because we all have laptops, right? We have to have a laptop. However, our wonderful friend was indeed not the hacker that we were watching. It was not the hacking group that we were watching. It was not the team that we were watching. In fact, we didn't actually see any network connectivity back to this laptop at all. In fact, the only thing we saw was the laboratory equipment. What? Only the laboratory equipment was connecting to the internet. But the laboratory equipment shouldn't be connecting to the internet because it's an air-gapped system, folks. I was very confused. Confused enough to run my tail down multiple stairs into the manufacturing floor and figure out what was going on. Anybody want to guess what was going on? You know who our hacker was? It was Bob, the manufacturing upstates guy. You know what he did? He walked in with a hotspot. He walked in with a hotspot based on our attackers' evaluation of the system, all the war driving, all of the geopositioning, all of the things that had happened, specifically because of one very nice person that had gone ahead, been hacked, and had some of these documents leak. They knew who exactly we were going to use to modify these systems. They knew who was going to do the update, and they just sat there and they waited. They waited for it to get plugged in, and then it went wonderfully and quickly right over to US East 1.
The best place to send all of your malware exfiltrating out data to the internet?
US East 1.
It's
Everybody goes to US East 1. See, the thing is, in any of the CSPs right now, you can go ahead and use a prepaid cash card and get a full-blown account in any of the CSPs. So now all of the things that you do to defend your systems, specifically the ones that are really important, that would control where you're sending data to, makes it look like it's sending it to AWS, Azure, GCP, just like everything else you currently hold.
Well, and of course, raise your hand if you're hard blocking those IP ranges.
I mean, because hard blocking AWS is going to turn out real good, isn't it? Yeah, no. So we go back to this. The reality is, this is a really scary thing. This was a medical manufacturer. We're talking about people that make medicine that we put inside you. And the outcome was pretty severe. Now, in this case, we actually caught them, we stopped it, and we didn't let them actually break the medicine, do the things that they wanted to do to some of the medical... We did not actually allow them to change the way the medicine was being made. We got really, really lucky. I should point out that this process, this attack pattern, would work just as well against blood pressure monitors, PLCs, and anything else that you want to plug into things. Specifically, hospitals are horribly vulnerable on all of this. I like to go to hospitals occasionally, John. Do you like to come home?
With my friends.
See? Now, let's take a pop quiz, everybody. Everybody ready for a pop quiz? I told you I was going to give you a pop quiz. All right. What does this signify? Loud, come on. Detonation of malware. Sort of close. Has anyone ever heard left and right of boom? Left of boom, towards John, means that something hasn't happened yet. Right of boom, towards me, how appropriate, means that it has actually happened. What does that mean I get to do? That means I get to play janitor. What does John get to do?
I get to plan.
You get to plan. Which of these two things is easier? It's not me, folks. Now, if we think about this just in general, planning is simpler and we take out the boom. In the systems that we've just talked about, in the things that we've just talked about, the 4 different critical infrastructure systems that have been attacked in this discussion, how many of these things actually had a boom? Who would have detected the apartment complex being hijacked? No one would ever have detected that apartment complex being hijacked if one of us hadn't been staying there for a weekend. Who would have detected that a CI/CD pipeline had been popped and that Bastion Host 3 was actually the most favorite Bastion host of them all? Okay. Who would have detected that the CI/CD SaaS service provider had been popped? It had been in there for years. The point to left and right of boom is, frankly, all of us as security individuals are lost in this concept of we're going to have a crater and then we're going to clean it up and then we're going to make changes because no one should ever waste an emergency. I've got news for you. The last one that we looked at when we talked about the medical manufacturer, had we not caught that, 500,000 people would have been killed. That is the estimation from the government of that country. I have a signed letter from the Prime Minister thanking me for saving that many lives. Just so we're freaking clear. There was no boom. It was not set up so people would take this particular medicine and die. It was set up so they would take this particular medicine and it would act like a sugar pill. In fact, salt water is exactly how it would act in the human body. No one would know that they weren't actually getting treated. They simply wouldn't get better and they would slowly die over the course of time. The nation state that did this specifically did it so they could shrink the population of a specific section of the world so they could buy more stuff in that particular section of the world. Yay!
More friends. Or less.
We as security people need to stop thinking about boom. We need to stop thinking about we need to stop looking for this crater because it's not going to happen. In all of these situations, the attackers didn't expect to ever break anything. The only thing they expect it to do is collect intelligence and then go do something with that intelligence, or slowly over time choke an entire nation out of being. The whole point here is, let's go slow. We're never going to get this again. This is one of the worst assumptions that we can make. Now, bad hygiene is a totally new thing. Who lets USBs in their stuff?
None of you use USBs?
I think you're all lying. So, interesting things to think about. 52% of cyber threats that attacked ICS systems used USBs. Still. As of July 2025, new USB malware was detected that is one of the most nasty, just truly uncool malware that you can possibly imagine. You know what it does? It infects your laptop and it sits there and it watches. Doesn't break anything. Doesn't do anything. Your laptop's going to be just fine. And our friends,
lots of them
are going to get to see everything you do. Fun, huh?
And as security engineers, we know that one of the primary security controls is simply locking down your enterprise, your home laptop, your friends' laptops, your family's laptops. And do we do it? Maybe.
No. I mean, to be fair, how many people at Thanksgiving actually lock down their in-laws' laptops?
Yeah.
You are a good person, ma'am. For the rest of us, however, I know I avoid that like the plague. Now, as we get done with our talk here, one of the things that was truly scary to me in the second incident was the SSH keys.
They're fun.
I like SSH keys. Who here uses SSH keys? We all like SSH keys.
Yes.
Should we have a passphrase on our SSH keys?
Oh, absolutely.
Should we share that password, that passphrase with our friends?
Probably not.
But it's easier for all of us if we have Bastion Host 3 to just put all of those SSH keys in a shared public folder.
That would be more convenient.
It would be. And you know what? Let's just get rid of the passphrases, because who's ever going to get on Bastion Host 3?
That's a lot of work.
It really is. And I mean, honestly, Igor's doing a great job keeping it up to date.
The intern?
Oh, is he an intern?
Yeah.
Okay. So seriously though, SSH keys are great. They're also a huge security risk if you don't actually follow appropriate hygiene with them. I have seen this go horribly awry multiple times. Please, please, please do things the right way. Spend time, do the hygiene, do the things that you need to do that are basic. I'm not going to give you any number of wonderful silver-coated tools that are going to make you do this. There aren't any. Lock down your USB ports, do things that actually evaluate the endpoints. Don't be silly.
Basic security? It's hard.
Now, please use them correctly. Don't share them. Don't put them in publicly accessible places. I hate to be this way. This is a don't be an idiot moment. Now, in this one, John, what's the problem with third-party risk?
They have SLAs and they are definitely secure.
But we totally signed the contract, John.
Oh yeah, it's secure.
It is. So the internet sucks. People suck, and we've already covered that. The reality is third-party risk is one of the most complicated things you will ever as a security person do. If there's any way, any requirement for you to trust a third-party system that you're then going to let do crazy, intimate, mutating things to your production environment, you should probably think about making sure you have controls on that particular SaaS provider, yes? I mean, let's think about it. If I'm your intern, are you going to let me play with production?
No.
Okay, you just said yes. You have problems, sir. We all know that we don't let the interns play with production, right? You wouldn't let me, as a professional Nathan, you wouldn't let me into your company to play with production, would you? Without me actually having a background check and doing some things? No. So why are you letting some random third party mutate your environments without doing the same types of due diligence?
And tracking and monitoring.
Logging, monitoring, all of the things.
All the things on the inside, all the things on the outside.
As a side note, it's not always the simple things. We can't always guess what's going to happen. Sometimes the really complicated things get us too. But let's be honest, if you're not doing things to detect things like 32,000 DNS requests over a 5-minute period, things are probably broken in your system. Visibility is one of the most important things you can have going, especially if you have a critical infrastructure system to begin with. I know it's hard to run a critical infrastructure system. I know it's expensive. There are people that you can go to, people that will help you. If you have questions after this, please find John or I. We will happily introduce you to people. We will give you people that will help you do the things you need to do more cost effectively, I think is the politically correct way to say that. Think about detection. Think about the things that you're actually doing. Think about the things that mutate things. Think about identity. Think about encryption for access. Basic things that we all talk about and none of us actually do as we get into the deployment of critical infrastructure. Why? Most of the time it's because it's 20 years old and it can't do any of these things. That said, we still have to figure it out. And there are ways for us to do that, and we should probably talk about those. Let's be frank, there is no air gap. Stop pretending that there's a goddamn air gap. It doesn't work. I swear to God, you will always find a dude watching soccer in the back of the room with his feet up on the panels. It's just what's going to happen. There isn't an air gap.
And thanks for coming. We have OWASP community space just across over there. We'll do threat modeling. We'll run this through with you. We'll chat on the back and have a great DEF CON.